Suzanne Golden, welcome to my channel. I'm so happy to have you here.
And thank you for inviting me because I'm just as delighted to be here as well. Thanks again.
We're going to be looking at some fantastic pieces today of your work and also of your, not just your beadwork, but your fashion, the way you express yourself in terms of fashion. But first, I'd like to know a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? What was it like? How did you feel? Etc. Stuff like that.
Well, I was born in Manchester, Connecticut. Dad went off to the war, and my mom moved in with her sister and two little boys. So I grew up with my cousins up until Dad returned from the war. At that point, we moved to the Bronx in New York, and I probably got there at around the second or third grade. At that time and in that neighborhood, we kept changing schools. It was just the way the school system went. And I was there until high school. And I went to a high school called Christopher Columbus High School. Many people from the Bronx may know of it. Then Dad started to do even better, and we moved up to New Rochelle, which was a lovely community. Went to New Rochelle High School. From there, I went to University of Bridgeport. Only went for 2 years. And then at the ripe old age of 20, I got married for a short time.
Wow, that is kind of young, but that's okay. That's fine.
It didn't last more than 4 years, so that's okay. Moved on.
And so you now live in New York City. What is it like to live in New York City? I mean, do you love it? Do you hate it?
I'm one of those who absolutely loves it. I'm an energy vampire, and I do thrive on the energy New York gives me. I enjoy every aspect of it. And I'll tell you the truth, I probably don't avail myself of all the things that New York offers, from all of the Broadway shows. I haven't been to one in a long time, and I really would like to go back to it. All the art museums. I try to get to the museums as much as I can. There's always an event going on. And unlike a lot of people, I like sitting in the midst of chaos. For some reason, it feeds my creativity and it feeds my soul. I don't mind a weekend away in the country because it's a nice change, but I don't think I could do that every day.
And we have these 3 images of you from younger stages of your life. Can you tell us about them?
Well, the first one is when I probably had a lot more hair than I do now. And I think I may have been in the 4th or 5th grade, not sure. The next one in my 2-piece bathing suit with my little belly sticking out. I always like to tell people that was in my Hugh Hefner days when I posed for Playboy. Because it's just such a bizarre picture. But my favorite is the one of me with a butterfly on my face. That was in the 60s. I had a friend whose leg I'm holding on to, who was studying photography. We put wrapping paper on the wall behind me. I sat and painted a butterfly on my face. I had long hair, but I added a fall that starts here. And that was the picture. That was the real. It's one of my favorite pictures of me.
And how did you live in the 60s? I mean, would you have called yourself like a hippie, or how were you living back then?
I suspect I don't want to say a hippie exactly, because I had a very lovely little studio apartment. I'm trying to remember where I was working at the time. And it may have been a public relations office. And I think I was separated from the husband. It was the time of the hippie movement and all of that, but I wasn't as adventuresome, I think. I was still a little reticent about how to live. I wasn't about to go out and run around as much. I still came from a small family that believed in certain way of living, and I respected my parents. So rather than being a wild child, I kind of buried it and honored my parents, so to speak.
Now, you're known in New York, all around New York, in the New York Times Magazine, and elsewhere. You are known as a style icon. Is that the correct term, or what term would you use?
I am known for wearing a certain designer, Japanese designer, Rei Kawakubo, whose line is called Comme des Garçons, like the boys. Another Japanese designer that's kind of under the umbrella of Comme, called Junior Watanabe.
Okay.
And their clothing, once I discovered it, completely enveloped me in a way that expressed something about me. I leave it to people that are more philosophical to tell me what it represents, but all I know is I felt like I'm home now. And that it was a earlier way for me to express something about myself. What that is, I don't know, but it just something suited me in that respect.
So are all three of these outfits here from Comme des Garçons?
Yes, they are all good representations. The plaid suit on the left, I was leaving their boutique called Dover Street Market. It's a building owned by the designer. It's used to be Toro College on 30th Street in Lexington. She took it over. It's very small. It's about 7 stories high. And it's probably the most avant-garde boutique in all of New York City, in my opinion. And it features their own clothing as well as designers as well, new designers, up and coming designers, a couple of designers you've known as far as Gucci or Prada. They have a wonderful jewelry boutique. And when you first walk into the store, on the right side of the store is a place called Rose's Bakery, where everybody gathers to meet and seat. It's communal sitting and sharing. So it's my meeting place, so to speak. If you want to find me, go there. You'll find me there.
So do you go there several days a week?
I would say I usually would go on Fridays with a friend and hang out. And people know that, to the point where people on Instagram have written to me thinking I work there, because they'll ask me about, did the Nike sneaker come in? And I said, why would I know that? Well, don't you work there? I don't know.
It's kind of funny.
I go there a lot.
That's very funny. I think it's wonderful that you have a place where that you feel so at home in, and that people know to find you there, actually.
I do. I mean, and I've met so many people coming through the store in general who have seen me on Instagram or just meeting people there. It's a wonderful place to be, to meet people and see what's going on in the world. It's a small little microorganism of it, but.
Okay, now I want to return to your expression, your self-expression as a style icon. A little bit later in our presentation, I want to get into your jewelry first, start talking about your work, which is incredible and totally unique, and no one does anything even close to what you do as far as I know. You were published in Perlenpoesie, a German magazine, back in, I think it was 2011. And they included a necklace we're going to see shortly, and they included instructions of how to make it. And I looked at the instructions and I thought, are you kidding? It is so complicated. Now, do you think anyone ever made that necklace?
I don't think so. I think the instructions, if I'm not mistaken, are in German.
Yes.
And there are beautiful pictures, artwork drawn by some app, which I don't know.
Right.
I guess if you wanted to, you could, but one of my particular passions is collecting beads that are vintage or rare and one of a kind that nobody else has. So to duplicate that would be impossible.
Well, it's also your aesthetic and your sense of scale, your large sense of scale and volume. You're not afraid to fill space with your work, right? And that does mark you as pretty exceptional, pretty singular. And your aesthetic, which we'll see more of. Right now, I want to hold up your fantastic book, which I love. I looked at it again today after I got it right when it came out, but then I didn't look at it for a while. I'm like, oh my God, this is fabulous. And it came out in 2013 and it's still in print. I just found out, right?
It is, as far as I know. I'm really, really proud of this book. I felt that now if I leave this world, there's a legacy I've left behind.
Yes, absolutely. I'm just turning to a random page here. Here's one random page. Let me turn to another random page here. It is so full of fabulous artists and their way of working with beads. And I just love how you chose the artists, and the presentation is fantastic.
I worked on the book with an editor for over a year. I got as many artists from all over the world. I got close to 80 different artists.
Wow.
And it was extremely difficult to narrow down. I did bump heads a few times with my editor because she wanted somebody else and I wanted somebody else. And so we finally ended up agreeing to the result of the book.
Okay.
And I'm very pleased with this book. It's wonderful. I have nothing negative to say. My editor was fabulous. I worked with, I think his name, Ray Hemachandra,
Mhm.
who was publisher at the head of Lark Books at the time.
Mhm.
And everybody was wonderful to work. It was very exciting, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Very proud of the results.
Yeah, and you should be. It's a fabulous book. I recommend it highly to any bead worker. If you don't have it yet, you probably want to get it like now. Um, now we're going to talk about your necklaces. In this meeting, this interview, we're going to talk about your necklaces, which are spectacular, and also about a couple of your pins, your brooches. In our next meeting, we're going to talk about your bracelets and some of your sculptural pieces. But for right now, we focus on necklaces. And it's hard to know where to begin because they're all equally brilliant. But we're going to start with this one. It looks like the Octohedron necklace. Tell us about this.
This one with all the blues. What I think we talked about earlier and that I've learned, I did everything in sets of 4. And I found that working with sets of 3 may be better for some reason. I don't know, but I was given to understand, do things in terms of 3s and not 4s. Nonetheless, my inspiration came from Diane Fitzgerald, a wonderful teacher. And I always give credit where credit is due. And she has a wonderful book out that showed the various techniques, and that's where I started. And I'm very much taken with large shapes. My feeling is go large or go home. So the bigger, the better. So I did each one graduated so that they got larger and larger as the necklace went on. And I'm happy with the results. I look back at it and say, maybe I should have just done 3 different designs instead of 4 different designs. I don't know. I leave it for somebody else to make a comment.
No, I'm going to tell you it's perfect as is. Now, what kind of beads are you using in this piece?
I think I'm known now for using plastic beads. Years ago, in taking a class 1 with Jean Power, fabulous artist in London, and here in New York, Carol Horn, another wonderful teacher. To demonstrate, they all use plastic beads because it's easier to see. I was very much taken with the size and the results because although delicas are absolutely wonderful, the results are very small. I want to make a splash. If I'm going to spend that much time, I got to make it big. And without knowing it, I developed my style. And I started to investigate companies that make plastic beads. I first discovered 2 companies in the beginning, but then I ended up with a 3rd company that probably makes the most amount of different colors. So they're my go-to company.
Okay. And what company is that if you're comfortable sharing?
Oh, yes. Artcal, ARTKAL. Wonderful company. Artcal.
Okay.
They sell boxes that look like this.
Oh,
You
okay.
can start off with, and there are about 7 boxes. Each one of these capsules have about 2,000 beads. So they have sort of the green thing, and it's done with a very nice nod to colors. So I made an investment and I bought all 7 boxes, and that started me off. I then graduated to individual bags of 8,000 beads.
Wow. Okay.
So I guess I guess you could say I committed to making works with plastic beads at this point.
Yeah, you found the medium. You
I
found
did.
the medium that works for you, that expresses your ideas best.
Yes, yes. I'm very happy with my choices. I do appreciate delicate beads. I see wonderful things being done. And every so often I turn back to them and I go, go back to your plastic.
No, you know what you're doing. I'd like to look at this green triangle necklace, which is fabulous.
Okay, that was again plastic beads, and just something when I had learned to do triangles. I'm obsessed with geometrics. Again, go big or go home, the
Mm.
scale. And I just got carried away. And I liked what I did. And I think I need to refine the back because it's a pointy necklace to wear. You cannot wear a coat over yourself.
Mhm.
But during the summer, I'll throw it on and it's fun. I
Mm.
like the comments I get on it.
And the technique here is,
Basically, it's peyote with underbelly in the corners when you make a triangle. It's a sort of standard technique at this point of the game.
okay, but never before used like this, I don't think.
I mean, the people that turned me on to it, I have to give credit again, is Jean Power
Okay.
in London. She started this geometric trend that I saw, and I had to know who she was, and I wrote to her. And she said, I know who you are, and I was behind you at the Bead and Button convention, but I didn't want, I was too embarrassed to talk with you. And I said, oh my God. So she became someone I considered a close friend. And whenever she came to the United States or to New York, always took her classes, lots of her instructions. She's definitely a huge inspiration to me.
A lot of people love Jean. I met her when I was around in the London area a long time ago, but we never had time to talk. But she's going to be coming on my channel,
Oh,
thanks to you and several other beaders who love her and recommended her. But back to this green necklace here. Is there an armature? Are there forms underneath?
nothing. The shape itself does not require armature, which is one of the things I like about geometrics. I have very large objects, but they're all hollow.
Okay.
And I don't know, part of it may be because of plastic beads and how they hold together.
Mhm.
So that there are times when I'm making something and it's difficult to get the needle, and because they're plastic, I can manipulate the bead without breaking the bead.
Right. And that's another great advantage of using plastic beads. With delicas, you can break them.
Because I broke many a glass bead in the past.
Yeah, yeah. But these, oh, I love it. That never occurred to me. That's wonderful. Oh, moving right along, the next necklace is called your Wonder Beads necklace. How did you come up with that?
That was a class that I did take with two sisters, Wendy Hubick and Sue Jackson. Wonderful teachers and very innovative. I loved this class. And years later, I guess going through some of my instructions, I came across theirs. And again, now I've got plastic beads. Let's go big.
Mhm.
Remade it and fell in love with it all over again. I
Okay.
just wonderful technique.
So the
With one,
original, the beads they were teaching were worked with what, delicas?
yes. And the pieces were wonderful, but they were much smaller than what I was making. So it made a big difference. As I said, the impact is to me is even bigger when I use my plastic beads.
Yes, yeah, I agree, absolutely. And the fact that your ego is, it's healthy enough to be able to reinterpret the designs of other artists,
Oh,
because you're
sure.
not afraid, that you're
Oh, no.
completely re-expressing the original idea in your own format, and you change the concept. And the fact that you give credit where credit is due is, I think, wonderful.
I think in the bead community, I think we have a phenomenal bead community. We're all about sharing. You really can't keep something a secret. And one of the things we all stick together as a group, and it's happened to all of us at different times, is finding someone, usually out of this country,
Mm.
their own website,
Mhm.
selling instructions that teachers here in the States have had to make a living. And we all call them out and we all talk about, tell this person, ban this person, don't buy, so forth. And I believe very much in giving credit where credit is due. I didn't come up with a lot of this on my own. I like taking instructions and techniques and adding my own spin to it.
Absolutely. And in effect, that's what we're all doing, no matter what kind of pieces we're
Exactly.
making. We
Yeah.
didn't invent all these techniques. We're just reinterpreting them and bringing them to a different kind of life in our own work. Well, I think this is a spectacular piece. I assume it's lightweight because the beads are
Yes.
plastic.
You could go fishing with my beads because they're plastic beads and I use fishing wire. So fishing cord. So if all else fails,
I
go
love it.
fish.
I love it. Okay, I can see these as fishing lures, individual beads as fishing
Yeah,
lures. So you're talking about fireline?
yes.
What size? What width?
For my plastic beads, I go 14-pound test.
Seriously, okay. All
and
right.
occasionally bigger. Sometimes if I do a double thread, another little technique I learned from Diane Fitzgerald, you tie a knot at the end of double threads, and when you thread it through a couple of beads, you just run your needle through that loop that you've made, and it's all secure, and you don't have to go run and make a knot and so forth and so on. But nonetheless, I say 14-pound test works. It gives me the strength I need, the body, everything holds, no armatures, no glue.
Okay.
That's it.
Size 10 needles?
Yeah, what I work with all sorts of embroidery needles, whatever works to get through the bead.
Got it. Okay. And your beautiful orange triangle necklace. I love what you did on the back here too. I love the front and I love the back.
Thank you so much. That came about because the triangles were so big, they were stabbing me in the neck.
Mm.
I said, what can I do to make this a little different? And what you see is what I did to make triangles. And I made what looked like a C shape on the side. And those two sides went and connected the triangles. And it worked. And it held. And then I got a call from a gallery in Tokyo, I think, that called and said, we're in town. We love your necklace. I have a customer who wants your necklace. Would you sell it? And I said, absolutely. I'm sorry, it was a Korean gallery. And so I sold it, and somebody in Korea is walking around with my necklace.
Well, that's fabulous, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I love that. I think it's terrific. I'm very happy that I had that kind of success with that somebody else liked my work. So
Yeah. And it just happened kind of by accident. You could call it a synchronicity almost.
yes. Oh, that's a good one. Yes.
Mhm. And the next necklace, another version, another expression of the triangle shape, the interlocking triangles in your long triangle necklace.
This is another example of when I said working in threes instead of fours, because I kept thinking, how many colors can I use? And every so often I do look at this necklace and maybe you should have made less and make it more cohesive. I sometimes think my work doesn't look quite as cohesive because it's done in different sets of fours as opposed to three. I don't know. I mean, if nobody else says anything, then I'm not going to say anything. But again, it's that fabulous triangle thing. I don't know, maybe a therapist can tell me what my addiction is to geometric shapes and triangles. It was the easiest thing. I think one of my styles is making something simple, but bold and colorful. And that's what I find attracts people's attention. Not
Yeah,
because
it's
complicated.
go ahead.
No, it's nothing complicated to it.
Yeah, you know what? All these forms you're using are ancient. Human beings have loved them. Diamond shapes, triangle shapes, spheres, circles. Humans have loved them for millennia, and there's nothing wrong with it. They're just fundamentally appealing to the human psyche or the human eye, you know?
I'm a cave woman.
Oh, well, maybe so. I mean, there was cave art, right? What were the cave people drawing? They were drawing art, right?
Right.
Okay, now the bow necklace, I noticed that you have it on arranged on the mannequin behind you.
Yes, I do. That is the result of this past season of clothing from Comme des Garçons. Let's see, what season are we in? The spring line. And it was so colorful. There's something about color that absolutely fries my brain. And I get very excited. It's like a feast for my eyes. And I do have an emotional reaction with color. I can't help it. And as soon as I saw the original coat from the runway and the various things that were included, I thought, I know what I'm doing. She used a huge bow in the runway show. And immediately I knew I'm making a bow. And I used your basic square stitch, I believe that is, which allowed me to make the perfect shape because peyote did not work. And I experimented. And this took me forever because everything was a bit of a prototype. I had no idea how big it was going to go. I knew that I was going to crunch it in the middle. I knew I wanted it to be a certain size, and I just kept working and working until I felt I reached the right proportions for me. And when it was finished, I put a chain link for a necklace. And I showed it to a gentleman who is an artist and moved here. He's an Orthodox Jewish man,
Mhm.
and he makes wild and insane art, and we became friendly. And he has been a teacher in the past, and I guess from Israel. And now he's here in Brooklyn with his family. And I sent it to him, and he said, may I make a suggestion? I said, absolutely. He said, take off the chain, make yourself a little beaded necklace. It'll be 100% better. And he was right.
He is right. He is right. I love that you were open to his
Yes.
suggestion.
Oh, yes, I am one. I truly believe in constructive criticism.
Yeah.
You grow from constructive criticism. He nothing nasty about it. He certainly didn't say, oh, that's ugly. He said, I think you can make it better. I'm
Mhm.
all for that. That makes, that makes sense to me. And I like listening to his advice because he's been a teacher, and that's my particular doing. Listen to what people say, you learn something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You were open to it. So I think you had mentioned to me a little while ago that if you could have bought the original runway coat,
Yes,
you would have. But
I
instead
would.
You bought a different one. The one on the left is the one you
Yes.
ended up with.
The one on the left is the one that goes into the stores to buy.
Okay.
There's not a lot of them around the world.
Okay.
They're limited boutiques. The only Comme des Garçons boutique is in New York City.
Mm.
That's it.
Wow.
Her two stores, Dover Street Market, there's also that in New York City and one in LA. But that coat didn't go to all the places.
Mm.
And I made sure that I got the coat because it was important to
Now,
me.
no, for sure, for sure. Does the designer Ray Kawakubo, does she know that you made this beaded bow?
I truly don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I do know of her husband. I comes to New York, I see him. I don't know. Maybe they are looking at my website. My quick 2 minutes of fame. I went to an event a few years ago where at the Comme des Garçons boutique, both Ray and her husband were there. I was wearing that big necklace that we had talked about,
Mhm.
and she's very standoffish, and in front of me, but to the husband, she asked him in Japanese, ask her if she could make several of those necklaces, but in black and white, for a couple of boutiques that she had called the Black Store. Husband says to me, repeated what I just said to you. And I said, oh my God, my whole life is complete. She liked my necklace and asked me to duplicate. I said, unfortunately, it cannot be done. These are vintage beads. They're one of a kind. It's all about the color. I could never get the same reaction with black and white beads. It was physically impossible. They
Yeah,
don't exist.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
It would have changed the whole thing, and they're not the same beads. And so I didn't care. She liked it. She saw it and wanted me to reproduce it. I went to bed on cloud 9 that night.
Wow, I bet you did.
I
That's
did.
high praise. Well, she recognized that you're an art, I mean, your artistry.
I mean, I'm very pleased with that. And so maybe they do know of me. I honestly cannot say.
I think she knows of you since she asked you to make more.
I know the staff on here in New York, everybody kind of knows who I am.
Yeah.
Everybody, it's a small world, so we all know one another.
Right.
So, even around the world, I know all the people that wear clothes by Comb. We're all in touch with one another, a lot of men, women as well. And it's a very fun group of people to know. So
Beautiful, beautiful. And this next shirt, it looks like kind of like a t-shirt in these colors, and you added your bow to that too.
yes, that's probably one of the things that helped with the creation. The t-shirt I bought from the collection, and I knew immediately that bow is going on that t-shirt. And it worked. I liked the size. I liked everything about it. And if no one else liked it, I liked it. I was
Yeah.
so pleased with the results.
Mhm.
As I said, it's candy for my eyes.
Yes, absolutely it
Oh,
is.
so I'm very happy with that. I have nothing negative to say about it. I wouldn't change it for a second.
No, you have brilliantly matched the energy of your beading aesthetic with the energy of these garments here. Beautiful, a beautiful match. And it's kind of wonderful that the one obscures the other. Both are foreground and background at the same time, and
Yes,
that's kind of beautiful and wonderful.
thank you.
Everything is so blended and authentic and beautiful. I love it.
It goes,
And this really brings us, now that we've gotten into Ray Kawakubo's designs, which you love,
yes,
and you love her shop, Dover Street Market, the only one in New York City in the world, right?
Well, it's the boutique Comme des Garçons. That's the only one.
Okay.
Her smallest store called Dover Street Market.
Uh-huh.
They are scattered throughout Japan, like in Tokyo and possibly Singapore.
Okay.
And one in New York and one in LA, one in Paris, one in London.
Okay. So still very, very few.
Yes, I would take a tour around the world just to visit all.
Oh, that would be so much fun. Do you think you'll ever do that? Will you do it?
If I get to Tokyo, I'll die happy over there.
Okay, okay, that's great. So I want to look a little bit more about your expression as an artist of fashion, as a style icon. Okay, you've been doing this for a long time and you've had a lot of recognition. Of course, New York, everybody is so sophisticated. You've got photographers like Bill Cunningham wandering around taking random snapshots of people who are fabulously dressed, walking down the street, and he's photographed you. And so I'd just like to look at some of these images right now. Here, it seems to be a billboard of you here on the left, and you're standing next to it. How did that come about?
The gym that I went to for many years was doing a bit of ads for the gym. And because I'm there all the time, I was one of several people that were asked to come in and pose and take pictures. I had no idea that I would be the one that would pretty much end up on their ads. So here I am walking along Madison Avenue, about 60th Street, passing a phone booth, which doesn't exist anymore, and almost had a heart attack because there I was in the picture. I screamed, turned around, took out my iPhone, grabbed a stranger and scared her. I said, "Oh my God, please take my picture." And she very obligingly did a few pictures. She said, "I have to go to work now." I said, "Oh, great, thank you very much." And that was the result of a random stranger taking a grab shot.
Wow.
Love the picture.
Yeah, it looks like it looks like it was completely intentional, set up for a fashion magazine or something.
And I'm wearing a red Comme des Garçons coat, why not? And shoes and jeans, the whole 9 yards. But it's the gym picture that I absolutely fell in love with.
Oh, I love it. And the photo on the right.
In front of the Comme des Garçons boutique on 22nd Street, between 10th and 11th. The wall outside is intentionally filled from people putting up all sorts of posters and whatnot. So it makes a very interesting background. So once again, stepped outside, took a picture wearing that particular outfit. And I think that picture ended up in Vogue magazine.
Yeah, there's a little Vogue
Okay, yes.
word on the upper right-hand corner. So you've been in Vogue magazine.
Well, a couple of years ago, when the Met honors designers, they usually honor designers that have passed on. Ray is one of the few, if not one of two designers ever to be featured and still alive. So they did a huge retrospective of her. And Vogue had asked the store, who are some of your best customers and so forth. So there were a few of us that were, again, invited to be photographed. And I guess that's one of the pictures. And there's some other pictures, and I have to figure out where they went. I think I put it up on my Instagram site from Vogue. They did a cute little layout of a whole bunch of us. So my 2 minutes of fame. And from that, picture suddenly paired up in the New York Post, in a London newspaper, which surprised the heck out of me, and a few other pieces. So as I said, okay, my 5 minutes of fame has happened. I'm very happy, and move on to the next whatevers.
Yeah.
So little by little, it's like I accomplished little things that I didn't know I would be accomplishing.
Yeah,
So,
you've done very, very well, and people have recognized you. So by the Met, you meant the Metropolitan Museum
yeah.
of Art
Yes.
honored Rei Kawakubo
Yes.
by having a retrospective show of her work.
Yes, they did. And it was a spectacular opening. I was invited to that. This is the picture of all the groups of people coming in, celebrities and whatnot, getting your picture taken, mingling with the crowds and just seeing the whole thing. And I pictured that I took of myself standing in front of the exhibits and having the same clothes that are on exhibit. So I thought, oh my God, that's fabulous.
That is fabulous.
On the exhibit thing at the same time.
Well, very, very memorable. And you know, you're very accomplished, you know, that you can do the beading on the one hand, and also the fashion styling. You're styling yourself in her garments and walking down the street and living your life. And, you know, things happen, people notice.
I have to tell you, as a much older person, senior citizen, I have a very nice life. My health stays good. I have no complaints. I have a lovely apartment. I like where I live. I like that I'm able to do the things that I'm able to do. I don't take any of it for granted. And I've told people on Instagram, don't envy me, because if you do, then you got to take all the negative, whether it be bad health and so forth. So I make the best of what I have. And I, like I said, I don't complain. I'm very lucky about a lot of what I have, and I enjoy it. And I, like I said, my beading makes me even happier.
Mhm.
Another way to be creative. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have two major ways to be creative.
yeah,
Now, when we were talking a few days ago, you mentioned that you feel that now is your time to thrive in life, that you did a certain number of years caring for your parents.
yes.
And you've had, some, your sister did pass, and so you've had a lot of hard years, and it's only recently in the last maybe 10 years or so that you feel that you're coming into your own, and you're not reticent anymore as you were when you were, growing up, to
I agree.
express yourself in
Yeah.
every way that you want to.
That's very true. You know, like I said, I came from I had a sister, my parents, Jewish family. My father did very nicely. We didn't want for anything, and you don't know that you want at that time of life. I mean, we didn't have the internet, and you only knew what you saw maybe in a magazine. But I had a very lovely family. They weren't creative. And as years went by, and let's say in college, when I expressed creativity, they didn't understand it and they didn't encourage it. My mother wanted me very much to be a teacher, get married, have 2.2 kids, come over on Sunday for the roast beef dinner. I wanted to run around and be free and do whatever it is that I wanted to do. A hippie, maybe I wanted to be a hippie, but there was a creative side and I didn't know how to access it because I wasn't given the information. And as the years went, it wasn't until I got much, much older that I discovered there is this creative side of me, and that trying so many different things in life, and beading was the first that hit me that I could do this. I think I could be good. I never wanted to be average.
Mhm.
It was important that I be good, that people said, oh, look what she made,
Mhm.
or recognize me. And when I started to be, the very, very first thing I ever did, well, I had to prove something to myself. Bead and Button, I think, was our first magazine. And I made little beaded bottles that beads came in. And I had just learned a couple of stitches. So I said, what can I do with those stitches? And I made them as creative as I could based on what knowledge I had.
Mhm.
And it was a whole set. And I sent it off to Bead and Button. And they published them. And I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I am now a star. They published my little bottles. And that gave me the confidence to keep going,
Mhm.
to be recognized, to be told you're good at something, and by your peers. So that was a very exciting time for me. And I kept doing that and kept pushing and doing whatever, taking tons of classes, meeting people. And then one of the first books that came out, I submitted work. I I didn't have a fear of being rejected. It was important for me to know where my place was in the world of beading.
Mhm.
So I constantly submitted. And honestly, I never got rejected. So I felt emboldened to keep doing that. And then when this book was coming out, I thought, let me send and see what happens. And I got a letter from the company. I forget who. I forget, she was very well-known artist at the time and publisher. And she said, we're proud to inform you that your work is going to be in the book, and something about a surprise coming. And I didn't know what she was talking about. Then they sent me the cover of the book. I was featured on the back cover, as well as being in the book. And I screamed again. And I called them up and I said, oh my God. She said, oh, we love what you do. We're putting you on the back cover. You're going to be the featured artist. And I thought, oh my God, I think I made it. I think this is it. Now, long story short, my parents' home had a huge bay window. When I got the book, of course, my parents got a copy. My mother took the book, turned it backwards so that you could see my work on the back, and put it in the window. So you drive along and there would be, what is that in the window of the Golden's home? And you come out of your car and you got to go up and look. And she said, what is that she's showing? Something beaded, obviously by me, on the back cover. That's how proud my mother was.
To continue now, with your fashion practice,
Okay.
which complements your studio practice. I think they feed into each other and complement each other. You were photographed by Bill Cunningham, a very famous, very quiet New York photographer, who, as I said, used to go around New York and photograph people who were really dressed interestingly and expressively. And he chose you. So tell us about this photo.
I've gotten to become familiar. I think everybody in New York knew who Bill Cunningham was. The most gentle, the sweetest man with a phenomenal eye for fashion. And he had already taken my picture a few times. And quick story in that the first time he showed a picture of me on the Times, I wrote him, took a picture, made it into a postcard card and sent it to him and thanked him very much for taking my picture. And that's when he wrote back and sent me a picture from his apartment to say, thank you for the card. You're one of the few people that ever wrote and thanked me. I was stunned by that because how many people's pictures he has taken and nobody says thank you. So I'm walking along the streets with my friend Victor wearing the necklace Victor made for me. I commissioned him to make it. And Bill knew of my friend, knew of me and said, oh, I have to take your picture. And that's pretty much how that picture came about. Sometimes he has a theme for the day, whether it be a red plaid, which I'm in another red plaid picture, or something else. But that was a day full of different people wearing, I don't even know what, things that caught his eye.
Wow.
And so that's how I ended up in that picture with him in the Times.
And you're wearing a necklace in this picture that we're going to see in just a minute.
Yes.
That was made by another artist.
No, that's Victor, the gentleman I'm with. He's the one who made it. He also used plastic beads.
Okay, we're going to see that in just a minute. You're featured again in the New York Times Style magazine in 2010, and you were photographed with the most famous fashion icon in the world, Iris Apfel.
Yes.
Tell me about what happened there.
Well, the writer of the article, the one standing in the middle with the short hair, is Lynn Yeager, a very well-known fashion writer for a long time, and probably another New York icon. She had gathered up several people, including Iris Apfel, to be part of this article, and I was quite flattered to be included. We gathered at the studio, a woman photographer, and as we're milling about planning how we're going to be shot, Iris came up to me and admired my black and white bracelet that I had made and was wearing. She literally grabbed my arm and barked at them. Woof, woof. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening here? What does that mean? I guess that was a compliment. And I thought, okay, I guess she liked my bracelets. And I was very flattered, but I'm taking that to be a compliment. No one has ever balked at me before.
It's very original, right? But then she was very original. Absolutely. She was one of a kind. I bet she did eventually acquire one or two of your bracelets. They would be exactly her style because she loves bold accessories, right? She loved big bracelets.
Yes, she did.
She's amazing. And, everyone loves her for good reason. She has the courage to express herself without asking anybody's input. I love it.
Oh, everybody I admire her for that alone. She's a unique individual and lived a very good long age, had beautiful hair and a great collection of clothes and jewelry. To be admired.
Absolutely. Now, part of your expression of your fashion sensibility is that your Instagram practice, if I could call it that, whereby you take photos of yourself, which we'll see actually in our next interview, and you photograph yourself in fabulous garments and you put these photos up on Instagram and other people respond, other artists start to sketch you. They're all doing portraits of you. And you're very generously sharing some of them here. What about this one with you in a green sweater that has pink flowers on it?
Because I put myself on Instagram, so almost not every day, but close, various artists following along. I guess my visuals attract the artists. And consequently, they have all done their version of me as they see me. And all I know, I get a picture or an email from them or on Instagram saying, Suzanne, I hope you don't mind, but I did this picture of you. and I am blown away. And I said, oh my God, I said, how fabulous. I said, may I have a copy? And they send me a copy and I print it out and they're framed and all over my bookcase. I am beyond flattered. And it's not about the outfit or what came together. It's how that artist saw me that day and that it did something to them that they wanted to do a picture of me. So I'm very happy about that. I have a lovely collection of artwork from artists.
Yeah, and they keep coming in, and each artist has a completely different style. Now, the next one with you in this kind of pink garment, the kind of a kimono, were you wearing a kimono?
No, I don't mean, again, I'm not sure what I was wearing, but the artist did such a great interpretation of me. I love whatever garment she did. She may have made her own garment for me because I don't recall something in my wardrobe that quite looked like that, but I love this image. Each image is totally different than everyone else's, and each image is the way that artist sees me. And I love the various interpretations. So there's no, oh, that's not a nice one. They're all nice. They're all great. And I'm very flattered by all of it. Everyone sees me accordingly. So, I have nothing negative to say. I'm thrilled.
And the next one with you in black, and there's like birds or pieces coming off of you. I love this because it's like you in motion.
I know. I don't even know. I don't know what artists have in mind when they see me. I guess they have their own energy and they interpret my energy a special way. So it's hard to say what they would say. I don't know. I just look at the end result and I'm happy. So I
Well,
can't.
you mentioned the word energy, their energy. I think what's happening here is they're picking up on your energy.
Yes.
And then mirroring it back, in their own form, in their own way, because they love you and people love that you do this, that you have the courage to take photos of whatever style you're wearing that day and share them with the world. Most people get up like me and we just put on, the most mundane garments and we go around in them all day and nothing ever changes. That's all we ever do. We Midwesterners, especially. But you New York City fashion types, you just have a much broader vision of what's possible in terms of dressing the human body.
I think for me, it became a way of expressing myself. I don't need to say much about it. Now, I'm not meaning to demean anybody's profession, but nobody's ever looked at me and said, oh, you must be a banker. And you could be, or you're a librarian. And I'm not saying that that's a negative thing, but that's not the connotation one gets. And most comments that I honestly get, oh, you must be an artist. And I love that that's what they see. And that works for me. And I generally say, yes, I do a specific kind of artwork. But yes, do you make your own clothes? No. Are you a fashion designer? No, I'm a shopper.
But wait a minute, you are an artist. You're a studio jewelry artist. You're an art jeweler is the name. Art jewelry is the name for what you do.
Okay.
Yeah, trust me, it is.
Okay, thank you. I mean,
it's the name I would bring to your work. How do you think of your work?
I'd rather be known as an art jeweler than your basic bead artist. I didn't know, but I wanted to cross over into the art world. And I did at some point. So I was very pleased. I've accomplished the things I thought were important for me.
Yes.
You
have absolutely crossed over into the artwork, the art world, excuse me. A few more of these portraits that other artists have done of you. What about this one here? It looks like you're in a store. You have little creatures with you.
This is Dover Street Market again, and my dear friend, Say. Say is a phenomenal graphic artist. I have a piece of art that's hanging up on my wall. It's a triptych. I commissioned him to do it. It gives me joy. It's food for my eyes. And he even made me a little design that I had blown up into wallpaper for my little bedroom. He can just keep making art for me. I cannot say what it is, but his art resonates very strongly with me. Okay. And I wish I had his ability because I would like to all of that into my beadwork. And I sit at my desk and I look up and I see his artwork and it's constantly inspiring me. I look at it for ideas, for colors, for shapes, how do I make that all coalesce into a beaded something?
Right.
So it's just a very unique thing. So this was his drawing of me.
Mm, wow.
In
It's
short,
so
but
playful and light, like you are. You are very playful and light, you know? Kind of
I do have,
you're radiant and bringing energy and exuberance into the world. I think that's your specialty. It's a gift. It's a gift you have and a gift you share.
thank you. I don't believe in the myth, well, you're 81, you better act a certain way or dress a certain way.
No,
No, no, no, no. That's
no.
out, no.
Now,
And
enough people are dressing their age, you know, it's okay if you go beyond that, if you're not limited, if you don't limit yourself
I mean,
by those notions.
you're not going to see me in a low-cut dress with boobs hanging out and a thigh-bearing skirt, or that's not my look, and it never was, and it
Right.
never will be.
Right.
So I don't need to prove I'm still young, because I'm not, but how I dress is how I express myself, and it doesn't say anything about age.
Right, right. It's completely,
Yes, it is.
age is beside the point in your world. Now, here you are in another portrait wearing, looks like red plaid pants.
Possibly red plaid pants, a black sweater that just had holes randomly placed.
Okay.
And again, another artist saw me in that outfit and felt inclined to do this portrait of me.
No, I just love it. Did that artist insert the red frame around this image too?
No, I did because it was on white paper background, and the type of frame that I had for it had too much space around it. So I just added a little red border so it fit in perfectly for the frame.
Got it, got it. Okay, now here we have this this necklace that you're wearing
Right.
in the Bill Cunningham photo.
Yes.
And it was made by your friend who's an artist. Tell me about this piece.
Victor is another artist himself who's very creative and also used plastic beads. In the world of plastic beads, the companies make grids with little points and you put your beads on them, and they were made for kids to make a picture. So he does these images with these little plastic grids, and then you can put a finishing, oh God, I'm going blank, over them to coat it. Also, plastic beads are known for something very interesting. You lay a thin sheet of parchment paper over it and you iron the beads, and the beads melt a bit and they adhere to one another. And you flip it over, and then you've got the finished results on one side. So he coated this with a protective covering, and that became my necklace. And simply by doing that, but I loved the way he did this. It was very creative. And he's done other pieces based on this technique. So he took it to another level, as opposed to children playing with the beads, making an apple. I commissioned him to do this, and I loved the results of it. I thought it was fabulous.
And I love how he, like all the other artists, are really tuning into your red glasses, which you know suit you. They're so becoming on you, and they are energetic and energizing. And all of these artists are tuning into that, and your red hair. Those are like your most
Yes.
recognizable style
Very
traits.
yes. So it's become very Suzanne, red hair, red glasses.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful. It's a signature. It's your signature look.
Yes, that's a good example. Yes.
Okay, so now I want to get back to your own work. Your amazing necklaces and a couple of brooches. Let's take a look at this Moroccan necklace here. How did this come to you?
Again, influenced by Diane Fitzgerald, an amazing bead artist and very innovative. And for me, I've always considered myself a technique junkie. And she had a lot of techniques. I had all of her books, and I had to make every single technique that she was showing. And that just came about, again, plastic beads, go big or go home. How big can I make this? And knowing the technique and how could I expand it to make what she made was a little object to something that was this big.
Right.
And that's more or less how that came about. And most of the time, I think my biggest thing is what colors should I use? And at the time, the company whose beads I was using didn't have the biggest amount of choices. So I thought, okay, this is good. It pushes me to be as creative as I can be with what I have.
Mhm.
And that is pretty much how that design came about, just trying to figure what to do with the shape once I made it.
Okay, and these structures are hollow on the inside, right?
All hollow, no structure inside, nothing to support it. They all support themselves, which is wonderful.
Fantastic. Now, you mentioned Diane Fitzgerald's books. You bought all of them. What other books have inspired you? Will you show them to us?
Sure, I'm just going to grab a ton of them. Diane was very prolific and made, oh my God, shaped beadwork.
Hey,
Loved everything she did. One of my all-time favorite people, and there are like a few books here, Jean Power. She did a book called Rivoli Beadwork.
another great book.
Then she did Geometric. This was my go-to Bible.
Okay.
This is where I learned every shape, or in terms of triangles, what to do. She completely rocked the world of triangles, how to make all these different pieces and connect them. Laura McCabe also embellished beadwork at some point.
Mhm.
You know,
Yep.
when you start to learn beadwork, there are maybe 5 or 6 stitches. And I've always said it's what we each do with the stitch that kind of makes it your own.
Mhm.
So I needed to know everybody's technique,
Mhm.
take from it what I can, and do something that would be pleasing for me. This is a quick story. A couple of gals from Germany that I got friendly with, convinced them over time they had to come to the Bead and Button show. They started to come and we all became friends, and they turned out to be some of the best beaders, one of whom is Sabine Lippert.
Of course, that's another fabulous book.
Yes, a phenomenal, and I forgive everybody. Everybody forgive me because I forgot names, but there are a few others in the group who are phenomenal.
It's okay.
I would sit in a class with them, and I would be so proud I did my first row. They would be on the 10th row. They were all very fast, and I could never understand, how do you get your hands to move that fast?
Mm.
I'm a slow beater, and maybe I'm distracted. I don't know, but I just don't move fast. And maybe that's why my projects take me forever.
Mhm.
Jill Wiseman did a beautiful book on ropes.
I haven't seen that one, actually. I'm embarrassed to say I'm going to have to get that one.
I probably have every book ever made by a bead person.
Great. Is that a Lark book?
No. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes,
Okay,
it's
okay.
a lot book.
Okay.
Over time, not only did I have every bead book made, but I had international books, and I had books by Japanese. I would go to our Japanese bookstore in New York City and bought tons of books. They were fabulous, and I still have some left over. When I moved apartments, I couldn't take all my books with me. There's just too many. And I had met a wonderful bead person who became my friend, Sam, who teaches down at SCAD, the Savannah College of Art and Design. And I donated to the school over 700 books in Sam's name.
You're talking about Samantha Norgard, right?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I mean, I thought, my friend, I didn't. Yes, Sam Norgard, who's
Okay, were
phenomenal.
all these books on beading?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's amazing. How many did you take with you then?
Well, I still have a nice collection behind me at my bookcase. All the ones that I thought were important to have.
Okay.
I don't need all the my reference books anymore because I know stitches. But I also had a huge collections of magazines, the earlier Bead and Button, and there was another Beadworks, I think, was the second magazine. And I put them in a carton, 2 cartons, and I shipped that. And the post office or someone dropped one of the boxes. It all opened up and spilled out, and it was never received. Somebody in the post office took all my magazines.
A bead worker, an aspiring bead worker, hoping you wouldn't mind.
I hope they went someplace good. But nonetheless, I love knowing that my books were in a library someplace, and Savannah College of Art and Design, phenomenal school. I wish I had known about it when I was growing up, because I would have gone there.
Right.
And
So
it felt good to do that. I knew they went to a good home.
yeah, that's a very generous, it's a philanthropic thing to do, because generations of students coming up will be
Yeah.
able to look at these 700 books you donated.
Yeah, I was very happy that I did that. It was a good place.
Fantastic. And I mean, it really is how you became a master of beading. It's by looking at it and learning, teaching yourself so many different techniques and taking classes and just being constantly on the hunt for new ideas, new
Yes.
people, new techniques. And that's how you distill everyone else's ideas down into your own ideas, I think.
You're absolutely right. As I said, the influence of Jean's power on me was immense,
Okay.
because she defined the type of beading I wanted to do. I wasn't into little knit one, beading, whatever, and using anything smaller than a delica drove me crazy. But like most beaders, when you'd go to the convention, you bought every single bead there was in every single size and every single color, because just in case,
Yes.
And the rule of thumb is, if you bought that lime green last year, you're going to buy it again because you didn't remember that you bought it last year. So I'm going to buy 6 tubes of that color. You get home and now you got 12 tubes of lime green.
Yes, occupational hazard, but it's okay. If you've got to have materials to create, and it's especially true in beadwork, you have to have the color or the shape you need when you need it. Because if you order it online, it's wonderful and everything. It comes, it might not be the right color, the right size, or might not have the right hole. There's all sorts of issues. Buying in person truly is the best, and that's why Bead and Button was wonderful. Shopping in person. It was incredible. Now, I think that you also mentioned Carol Wilcox Wells books too. I think you have 1 or 2 by her.
The very first book I ever bought was 1996, and it was called Creative Bead Weaving. And it became my Bible. And to me, if I didn't know how to do everything that's in here, I will never be happy.
Okay.
And I literally went to bed hugging this book. I was hoping the knowledge would go into me.
Yeah,
I needed to know everything. How did they make that shape? How did they do that? I was obsessed. I really was. And I learned as much as I could. We had a lot of class. Beading was new at that time. It was the beginning of that whole world. And because I needed to know if I'm going to be good, I didn't want to be average. I wanted to be better than average. I wanted to have respect for myself and say, I'm a bead artist or whatever. So there was a second book coming out, and entries, they were asking people, send us your beadwork, and if you can get in, you get in. Now, I had, not that I wasn't confident, but I needed to know, where do I fit in the world of beading? Am I good? Am I average? Am I better than average? I'm going to submit something. If I don't get in, okay, I could live with that. So I submitted to the Art in the Elegance of Bead Weaving. And I got a beautiful letter that said, Suzanne, we're happy to announce that you're going to be in the book. We're going to show how to make one of the things, but we have an extra special surprise for you. I didn't know what it was until the book came. The book came and I thought, oh, I made it. They put me on the back cover. I mean, to me, that was the ultimate, I'm in success. I didn't get the front cover. I don't care. I'm on a cover. So I was thrilled to death.
It's a fabulous piece. So many people, you have shared the instructions for it at some point in time.
Yes.
Many other beaders have made their version of your piece. It's been widely influential. It's a fabulous piece. How did you come to figure out that structure? It's a very innovative structure.
I remember, as I said, I remember being in the backseat of a car for some reason with friends from the convention. Stacy Kramer had taken a class and she was trying to explain something to me about putting beads on in different sizes. And I thought, that's very fascinating. Different size beads. So I remember going back to my room, taking out my collection of beads and stringing them up, a big bead like a size 6, an 8, a 10, 11 to a delicate, I guess. And then I looked at it and I thought, well, now what do I do? And then tried to go back and do some peyote stitching with the size of the beads and got something weird. Didn't understand that. So I said, what would happen if I went from big to small and then went back up from small to big? I think it was purely an accident. An accident because I had no idea what I was doing. And the more I played with it, it just clicked. Suddenly I think, I know what I'm doing. And the first time I made the bracelet, the mystery got to me when it was like, oh, how do I connect the ending? I'm not a class person. I like a true bracelet. The ends have to connect. And somehow I figured out that the beginning should match up to the end, and it just matches up somehow. So I was excited that I could connect the ends, and that was the beginning of my spiral madness. And I did go on from there with as many variations of spiral bracelets. I think back now, and to be honest with you, I am somewhat perplexed as to how I did it. Somebody wrote to me recently, asked me about how I did it and so forth. And I'm a bit out of a loss because I don't quite remember. I would have to sit down and look closely and think about it at the moment. There is somebody else, and I forget the name of the company, or they were vendors. They were two gals who did something also at the same time. And I don't remember, they may have been first, or I don't know, but they also did something similar. And it may have all happened at the same time. I really can't say for sure. I just know when I started to play around with it, I didn't develop the technique. It's just what happens when you're playing with your beads. I never took claim for anything. I'm just very happy when I make something and it works.
Well, it sure worked in terms of that, in the case of that bracelet and all your other pieces. You know, it does happen in the history of beadwork that there's an idea in the air, apparently, within a certain period of time, and two or more people somehow pick up on the idea. Again, a kind of synchronicity, maybe, I don't know. The idea is in the field, and two or more people express the idea in a similar way without knowing that they exist. Okay, so there's not necessarily any direct contact between them, but this has happened, I'm convinced, like when countries are separated by hundreds or thousands of miles, going way back, because independent innovation,
right,
is one of the things that explains how certain techniques turn up all over the world, right? And I think maybe in this case, you, Stacy Kramer, mentioned to you that you could increase and decrease peyote, and you knew peyote because you were studying techniques. And at the same time, other people may have had the same idea. Maybe Stacy talked to them or somebody else talked to them, and they came up with the same idea. In any case, I love your interpretation of this increasing, decreasing peyote tube concept as a magnificent sculptural spiral bracelet. Okay, returning now to your necklaces, your necklace practice, as I would call it. You've worked even larger in the Happy Days necklace. How did this come about?
Again, taking a class with Laura Shea at the Bead and Button convention. I'm very bad with the names of shapes. I think it's called a decahedron. I know it's 30 beads. I'm not good with the names, but
dodecahedron is 30 beads, or an icosahedron. They both have 30 beads, but here you're using dodecahedrons.
Whatever it's called.
Rings of 5, 12 12 interlocking rings of 5.
So I learned the technique and became so enamored of it that I did it so much that I could do it in my sleep. I could do it blindfolded. I could do it without looking at the instructions. So once I created it, it was like, okay, what are you going to do with it now? Decorate the hell out of it. And again, beads that I had been collecting that are unusual, that are different. And literally, that is how this came about, is how many ways can I take a round shape, fill it up with different colors, change it, add a bead, and do as much to it and turn it into the necklace that I made. I'm very pleased again with that because the stringing part was a little unusual. I think I remember kind of stringing things and crossing over, coming up and then crossing over and then going back up. And Again, I used metal wire. I forget the name of the wire that we all used at the time.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how that came together. And again, it's so long and so big, but I also have a baggie full of all the extras that didn't get onto the necklace as well.
So there's another structure in here, another classic Laura Shea structure in here besides the dodecahedron. And this one is actually, Laura did share it, for my book a long time ago in whenever it came out, 2005, I think it was anyway.
Yeah.
These puffy bead balls, and I can't think of the name of the geometric structure. They're absolutely brilliant. And you've got another structure in here too. I don't know if that's an Archimedes bead, but the puffy ones
Right.
built upon what she calls an Archimedes bead, which is
Yes.
a 90 bead sphere, actually first, well,
Yes.
independently invented, we could say maybe in China and elsewhere, but definitely present in China a long time ago. So you're playing, you use these fluorescent colors, which
Yes.
I love. Here again, few of us have the courage to use colors that are this bold and this sort of tropical and fluorescent. They're almost neon, and they're fantastic. And I see why this piece was featured on the cover of, I think it was a show in Oregon. Is that correct?
Yes. They were doing a brochure. What's interesting to me is the use of color. I've had no color theory background whatsoever. I work from my gut, so to speak. And what amazed me is talking to someone one day in a class, and she was using very dark, muted colors. And I said something about, oh, those so dark. And she said, I love to use brights, but I'm too scared. And I never heard that before. I said, what do you mean you're scared? She said, oh, I don't know. That scares me. I don't know how to do that. I said, well, using those dark muted colors scare me because I can't work like that. I said, I've never heard that before. She said, I'd love to do what you do, but I don't know how. And I was very fascinated about that. People either muted colors, the browns, the blues, and so forth, but that color is a mystery to them. Or I never heard that before. She was scared to use brights. And I thought very, very fascinating. And a quick story, Carol Horn, my early teacher for beading in New York, I had anxiety about what colors to pick for a class of hers. And she at the time used pastels. I didn't have enough beads to do pastels, so I just randomly grabbed bright beads. And after 1 or 2 classes with her, and I said, Carol, I love your colors, but I'm just not good with pastel. She said, would you stop it? She said, you have a color pattern. And I said, I do? She said, well, yes, you gravitate towards the brights. Don't even think about it. Go with it, stick with it. You do great brights. And that was how it started and stayed. Never thought twice about it ever since. Makes your life very easy.
Well,
So,
yeah, I mean, she had the wisdom not to try and
right,
talk you into being somebody you're not. You're
exactly.
not a dark color person. You're not a pastel person. You're not a white person. You're a multicolor person. A blooming, look, your colors are blooming, right? They're growing. I love them. And in this next necklace, the ladder necklace, this has also been published, I think, on the cover of something, which I didn't include in here. But it's kind of a similar structure. And to me, this ladder, this layering of the horizontal lines, the arcs, is kind of almost a tribal feeling to this. Right?
I'm looking at a picture on the side here quickly. Again, based on techniques that I know. And using my plastic beads, various kinds of plastic beads, just made something that made me happy, that made my imagination flow. Nothing more than that. There was no structure, but these were a collection of vintage beads that I have, that some of it was strung and showed off the quality of the bead in terms of its color. It was orange and white striped bead. I loved the shapes. I said, how can I use those shapes mixed in with beaded shapes? And somehow it all came together. Nothing comes in overnight with me. It takes a while. The idea starts, I start to make things, I percolate a bit, and I thought, oh, okay, this is where it's going. I don't have a plan, and it comes about as I'm working. I call it my office is upstairs here.
Wait, your office is upstairs?
My office where I work.
Love it.
Let me put it this way, my design studio.
In
It's
your
up there.
brain. Your brain is your design
My
studio. I
brain is
love
my
it.
design studio. And I'll just sit and stare into space and I see things. Or I get into bed to go to sleep and something appears like, oh my God, how do I do that?
Right.
I can't go to save myself. So I don't have sketches of things. I don't have anything. And what's even funny is that I write notes to myself. Here's what you should do. Take a bead, do this, do that, that. And then maybe a month later, I find my notes and I go, what the hell did I write? I have no idea what I was thinking about. I have no idea what I would wanted to do. And it remains a mystery. And I have many notes that look like that with ideas that mean nothing to me now. So,
But you were capturing an idea in the moment.
yes, and I have no idea what I was thinking about. And I thought if I could only draw to express this idea, that would be terrific, but I can't.
Okay.
So,
Well, I don't think you need to. And the next necklace, the strings or the strands are moving not horizontally, as in the last two necklaces, but vertically, like tassels, very free flowing.
this is just a strung necklace and nothing more. The one we call going quackers. Okay. What I like about this necklace more than anything is the back of the necklace. They are two rubber duck heads that I saw in a toy store from which laundry bags for kids were hanging. Two of them hanging down this way. And I took them off the wall and I turned it around and they were kind of suction. I said, oh my God, there's my clasp.
Wow.
Suction, turn them around, boop. And that became a clasp for me for a necklace. So that was the way that design came about. But I had seen someone's work at Bead and Button. It was mostly metal. And it was the next inspiration to do this. And again, how can I use up all these bizarre beads that I have and sort of make a tribal looking necklace? And that's how that necklace came about.
Well, it's absolutely beautiful. Do we have an image of the back, the rubber duckies?
I do.
Oh, I'd love to have that, and I will add it to this slide so people can see what that looks like. I'm glad you mentioned that. I think it's brilliant. You're open to the world. You're open to finding your materials anywhere.
That's how the name, I guess, Quackers came about.
Well, okay, no, I love it. I love it. That's beautiful, beautiful. I didn't know how the name came about. And your bib necklace.
Random nothingness. Again, probably looking at something Diane Fitzgerald did. What can I do with these various shapes? This was sort of a random necklace. I didn't know that it was successful or not, but I made it anyway and just said, well, whatever. And just randomly wearing it and then getting comments from people about, oh my God, I love your necklace. And I thought, oh, well, maybe it's more successful than I know. So I don't necessarily think a lot of things that I make are successful. I didn't think that was successful. I just thought it was just big and out there. But again,
I think it's successful.
thank you. Well, I'll take that as a definite compliment. So I'm very happy with that. And as I said, who knows what I might find is maybe not so. If somebody else will say, oh no, that's really very good. I thought, oh, okay, let me put it back up on that status wall of this is successful. Remove it from the list of not so successful.
Oh, I love it. And how about your going to Hawaii necklace?
Oh my God. I thought I lost my mind on that one. Love this necklace. Again, inspiration from all over the place. Netting, I learned netting. What can you do with netting that's just not flat netting? I made a small inner tube, and then I made another tube over the second tube, and then I made a third outer tube. There are 3 netted tubes going on. The outer one had so much spaces, I had to fill it up. I had little flower beads. I had other weird plastic beads. And then my famous round dodecahedron type things. Added that. And I thought, gee, I wonder if I could pass this off as like a Hawaiian lei necklace. So that's how the name came about. going to Hawaii because it just,
No, I think it's a great name and it really fits. It's such a novel, completely new, radically new interpretation of a Hawaiian lei necklace. I mean, you know, it's fantastic. It's amazing. I love it. And again, I love your tropical color sensibility that you sometimes apply in your pieces. It's beautiful.
well, coming from you, Valerie, I very much appreciate the compliment.
I mean, you know, I'm truly very sincere. Your work is astonishing. It keeps astonishing over and over, right? And that's a sign of a, forgive me, but a true genius, you know?
Well,
And true works of art that they last, they endure over time. You know, you look at them multiple times and they're still brilliant.
one hopes my plastic doesn't melt.
I don't think it will. You're not going to leave them in like in the sun or on a radiator, right?
No, I think I may have mentioned I'm planning to leave most of my work with the Bead Museum up in Portland.
Good.
It'll hopefully have a home of its own. Maybe some of it'll be on display and it'll be a nice place rather than having randomly, I don't know, go where.
No, no, no. I think that's a very good choice. I only hear always good things about them. The Bead Museum in Portland, Maine.
Yes,
Only hear good things and that they really mean what they're doing. They're committed to the history of beadwork and to building this beautiful museum that they have. So I'm glad you've chosen them. And
yes,
it must be give you some peace of mind just to know that, you know, your pieces will have a home after, you know, you're no longer beading actively, that they will go somewhere where they'll be loved and preserved.
well put. I have one, some relatives who might like my work, but they will pass on eventually.
Yeah, good point. Good
No,
point.
I mean, that's how I think about it. I spent all this time making things. I wanted to have a place that'll be forever. And
Yeah,
not,
you know what, you're establishing a legacy that,
yeah,
that future beaters and other people, probably art historians, will be able to refer to over the years.
well, that's how I feel. And I did speak with them. They have a piece of mine now. It's a huge round globe of 360 triangles.
Oh my
And
word.
it's on display and it's in its own little showcase. I'm very excited. I haven't been to the museum. I do plan to get up there. But in the meantime, I feel so much better about where's my work going to go. I mean, my family that I have might want to have a piece or two, but I always think, well, then you're going to move on. Or what's going to happen? It's going to be tossed aside. Someone else won't appreciate the work that went into it. Someone else might say, oh, it's just plastic beads. It's art. It's something I made. I want
Yeah, you know, if you just leave it to some kind of the random forces of entropy in the world, people won't know what the history is behind these pieces and or the history of you as an artist and how you developed, you know, and how influential you've been all over the contemporary beadwork world.
Well, I do believe the Bead Museum is the way to go for everybody who's a bead artist. If you have something you don't know what to do with it, give it to the Bead Museum. Will be on display forever.
Right, right. I agree. Now, your Bubblicious necklace, somewhat of a similar colorway,
Yes.
equally playful. How did this come about?
Give me a technique and I'll run with it forever. I was, at one point, as I said, I discovered geometric and triangles. This is my dodecahedron time. And there wasn't enough round beads that I could possibly make. And it just kept coming out. Okay, let's make another big round bead. Look at all these beads I've collected. What can I do with them? And this is all that just kept making and making. And I still have a bunch of these pink and white striped beads. I think I have them in green and white. And I always think, how can I combine what I make that's a cross weaving technique, as Laura Shea used to say. She always likes the technique cross weaving.
What does she mean by cross weaving exactly?
I was saying beaded something, and she calls it a cross weaving technique where your bead or I think your needle is crossing over and weaving this back and forth type of shape.
Okay.
But I do remember asking her how to on my website, and she said, no, refer to it as cross weaving.
Okay.
So that's something, we can always find out and ask Laura about. But that was just another one of those things in my dodecahedron period of, well, let's see, what else can you do with the round shape? What beads do you have that you can use up? And another necklace showed up, and there it was.
And I love how you integrated these flower beads.
Yes, they had a big collection of those.
Well, they work perfectly in that you put them in the empty spaces, the negative spaces,
Yes.
that were left in between the lattice, between in the open areas, between the bead strands.
There was a book that came out again to do with beaded beads, I believe. And I submitted all of these beads as loose beads. So there was a page where they were published. I think it's about 6 beads in a row. Great, happy, I'm in the book. Get the beads back. Now what? I'll make another necklace.
There you go. Okay.
How that came about. Made another necklace, just what I need, another big beaded ball necklace to hang on the wall.
Yeah, but you're experimenting, you're expressing, you're creating, you're expressing your vision. Totally beautiful. Now this next one, the clown necklace, I love this one especially.
That, you know, as to how that came about, excuse me as I turn sideways to look at, I was at the store, Metalliferous.
Oh,
Here
sure.
in New York.
Yeah.
It was on 46th Street or something, huge store. And with a friend, in the back of the store, they have boxes of all sorts of things. And I went through a box of vintage cabs and found the clown and all variations of the clown. And I don't remember, they were very cheap. And I bought a bunch of them. And I'm sitting home trying to think, what can I do with these? I want to do something. Is it going to be too silly? Is it going to be too wacky? And I had taken a class with the person who taught the stitch that I used, and I going blank on her name.
Albion Stitch.
Albion Stitch, right? With
I forget the name of the artist, but it's on the slide, so people can know.
Okay, Heather Kingsley Heath.
There you go.
Teaching a class at the Bead and Button Convention on the Albion Stitch.
Okay.
I am the type of student in the class that performs badly. I have trouble learning a new stitch, and I'm a perfectionist and I want to get it right. And for some reason, I'm always the slowest one. Everybody's running along and beading and creating, and I'm going, oh my God. And she came over to me and said, look, Suzanne, take a deep breath. When you go home, you'll practice the stitch. Generally, that's what happens. I struggle in class, but then the pressure of keeping up with everybody goes away. And came up with the stitch and built it around the clown necklace. I'm very pleased with the results of that one as well. But it came out very nicely. I got the stitch down perfectly for this piece. I don't remember how to do it anymore. I would have to look it up again, but it was a most unusual stitch, and she came up with that. And so everybody wants to learn a new technique, and that was how that particular necklace came about.
Well, the arcs that you're creating an Albion stitch works so perfectly as framing to create this lime green frame for this very, happy clown face, kind of curious and happy, engaging, a very engaging clown face. And you've situated here in these exuberant colors. And it's just a very, very happy piece. It's also technically pretty advanced.
Wow. Thank you very much, Valerie.
I love this piece. And the clown tie.
I couldn't stop.
Couldn't stop.
What I liked about the clown tie, the centerpiece was 2-drop peyote. And somehow, I think it's 2-drop 1, 2-drop 1.
You mean that the tie itself, not the upper part or the lower part, but the tie.
Orange and blue, right in the middle.
Right.
Yeah, not the cabochon part. I don't know why or how, but it just worked itself into the design perfectly. And I thought, oh, this is really good. I don't know, again, how it all came about. Sometimes it just, a light bulb goes off. And it worked itself very, very well. So I'm very pleased with that. And then the usual decorating just comes naturally to me. You give me the right beads, I'll decorate the hell out of something. And the top part, again, beading around a cabochon and making those little dodecahedron fellas and so forth and so on. Give me a round shape. And I mean, obviously, a lot of my work was round shapes. I'm sure there's something to be said about people who like round shapes as opposed to right angle shapes. So I don't know what that says. I leave it again, somebody to analyze me.
Well, I
And
think in my experience, most human beings prefer round shapes to
okay,
right angle shapes. At least the customers I've worked with over the years, they vastly prefer a spherical structure as opposed to a cube. But some people like cubes, okay?
no, I
But many people, I think more people like the spheres or the circles, the round shapes. So that's it for the necklaces we're going to see today. And now we're going to turn to a couple of brooches you've made that are incredibly imaginative and beautifully structured. The first one is your Shakespeare brooch. Can you tell us about that and then show it to us?
I got a invitation from a group of people telling me about a Shakespeare festival that took place yearly in Verona, Italy.
Mhm,
Totally unknown to me.
mhm.
And since I was invited, I wanted to participate. And I had no idea how they found me, but they did. And they said, make something, anything you want, possibly a brooch, showing Shakespeare. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh my God, I thought, oh my God. So I started looking up images of Shakespeare. How am I going to incorporate that? And finally, somehow, one way or another, I found an image. I happened to have a half of a round plastic ball. I don't know what you call them. And I took the round image I found of Shakespeare, put the dome over it, half a dome. And I said, okay, we got one part. What are you going to do with the rest? And then somehow came up with this insane arrangement and these big black and white beads, just something I happen to have. But what I am most proud about is the back of the piece, because I wanted it, the back, I've always been told the back should be as pretty as the front.
Mhm.
I said, okay, it's a mess in the back. How am I going to cover it up? I don't know how and where the idea came to me, but a sink drain.
I love it.
Isn't that brilliant? I have to say that.
Yes,
I thought
it's
that was
brilliant. Absolutely.
and I sewed around it, made it neat. And I thought, look at that. And then I stuck a bar pin somehow on top, and that worked. And I thought, it's finished. We've got Shakespeare in a brooch. So
Absolutely amazing. Just so innovative and brilliant.
thank you.
I
I'm very
love it.
happy with that. I lost the brochure because they put me on the cover.
They put you, oh, I'm so
I
sorry.
don't,
I looked online, to find it. I couldn't find it.
it's probably somewhere amongst my things. No doubt when I'm dead, they'll find it. But
Yeah,
in the
that's okay. I'll do a little more hunting and see if I can find it. And lastly, we have this beautiful this kind of pinkish
oh,
floral kind of brooch here.
that just randomness working again on triangles. And I was trying something and I thought, what if you only did 2 points instead of a triangle, three? And I was experimenting with colors. And when I finished whatever the first shape, it looked like a leaf. I thought, oh, well, that's kind of cool looking. And I made another one, trying some other color combination. And then I made a third one. And then I said, oh, wait a minute, we got something going on over here. Let's keep doing. So I repeated the three. And next thing I knew, I had the beginnings of a brooch. And I thought, oh, but I want to put in little cabochons at the tips.
Mhm.
I had just ordered some cabochons. And when I turned them over, they were this really pretty pink color. I said, oh, is it cheating if I use the back of the cabochons as part of the piece?
Mhm.
Again, thinking that I'm allowed to step out of the box.
Mhm.
I'm going to turn the cabochons over. And that's exactly what I did with this unexpected leaf shape, turned it into a brooch, turned the back of my cabochons over, which for me was kind of exciting in the sense of, oh, I'm stepping outside the box. I'm not using the cabochon for which it was intended, but I'm using the back of it. And needless to say, I got questions from people. I love the color of that cabochon. Where did you get it? And said it's the back side of the cab. The front of the cab was a lovely color. I don't even remember what it was. But whoever put the cabs together painted this pretty pink on the back.
Right, to increase reflectivity and color, like color radiance. So what you're saying, what you did here is you showed off the pointy side of the cabochon and you left you buried the flat side inside the structure. which
Yes.
nobody does that I know. Well, not too many people, maybe absolutely nobody does it.
So the backs of the cabs are usually metal, if I'm not mistaken. When you look at a capuchon, they're kind of metal and whatever.
Mhm.
These are bright pink, the color. I said, oh my God, I like this color better than the front. And that's literally how that came about. Total experimentation. So for many people who bead, I know a lot of times you just experiment and you get something and it's like, oh my God, it was a wow kind of a thing for me. Had no.
I think that you also knew enough as an artist and as a designer to leave it, not to correct it, not to do it the way it's supposed to be done,
Exactly.
but to leave it, in your way, to do it in your way. And that takes a lot of expertise and wisdom and intuition. You're very intuitive, and you knew that it was better to leave the pointy side up.
I just used that word recently. I said I'm very intuitive
Yeah.
when it comes to certain things, people, instances of things in life. But yes, it just I always say that I have an inner bell or an alarm. And when something is ready, like a cooking bell, the alarm goes off and it's like, it's ready.
Okay.
That brooch, the bells went off
Okay.
and it said, it's ready.
And you trusted the bells.
My
Okay, we have one last piece to look at, and you're going to show the latest piece that you just finished now and tell us about it.
Yes, okay. That came about because of, I'm going to go blank again. Barbara
Briggs.
Briggs. Okay, thank you, Barbara Briggs, for this one. I love the way she used colors, and it was a different way that I worked. So what I wanted to do, I love the necklace that she made. I got her instructions, and of course, I'm going to use my plastic beads, kind of following in terms of the structure, and use my own colors, but they're similar to the way she structures her colors, which for me was a great way to work because I'm very used to doing a certain way. And her technique is to use multi type of a design. And my structures are much, much bigger than hers because she did delicates. I then made these little round things to tie it in together. What I want to say, we mentioned something earlier, that this piece, what I think of, is organized chaos. And by that, I mean each design is busy, but each design is outlined in red and yellow outlines.
Okay.
That's the underbelly stitch part of the necklace.
Okay.
Okay. And that to me unified the whole structure because the first time I did this, I had different colors on the sides. And I said, oh no, this is looking too unorganized. I don't like the hodgepodge. I'm going to put black and white on the outside. It worked, but my bell did not get off. No, got to do it again. Finally, I decided red and yellow were going to be the way to go. How will I organize that? Then I'm going to make these little red and white things to connect everything. Inside of this is a dowel, a wooden dowel, to which I then cut down to the size I wanted, and then drilled a hole so that I could thread through it to connect everything.
Okay.
And connecting everything was a bit of a challenge because sometimes I make something and I get halfway done and I realize, oh, I did this wrong. There's an easy way to do things. I struggled with the first half of the necklace, but on the second half, I figured it out and it worked. And I'm thrilled because I hate taking things apart. But generally, the duh moment comes halfway through a necklace or whatever I'm working on. It's like a common sense thing that doesn't come to me at first until I start to do it. And then I realized, oh, you're going to have a problem stringing because I put bubble wrap inside these pieces.
There's bubble wrap inside those pieces?
Yes, and you could still
I
go.
love it. So they're a little bit squishy. They're a little squishy.
Squishy, but they're not flat. They're puffy.
Yeah, I got it. Can you try that on for us?
Absolutely. My pleasure.
And maybe turn it around?
Let me see if you can all
Oh, yes.
see what I'm trying to stand away a bit
I love it.
and see if I can get this to work a bit more.
And
So
you can show off any one of the elements you want. You can rotate it, right?
well, it's not so much rotated. It is going to hang. This is the centerpiece bead.
Okay,
So, and it has to hang this way.
okay.
The only other, because this is what was the problem. When you start to string, it was going like this. This was hitting this. I
Okay.
did not like that structure at all.
Okay,
I wanted this piece to be the center.
I got it. Okay, okay,
Other beads, I wanted it to go this way here,
okay.
straight down. I didn't want to see this.
Right, right. Okay,
That's what happened. And so playing with the different structures, there's 2 of this bead,
okay.
this bead, and 2 of this one, but this one and this one and the other third one, they're all different.
Got it. Okay.
But to me, this is the perfect example of organized chaos.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I love it. I love it. It's
I'm
it's
happy.
magnificent.
I hope, Barbara, if you're watching this, I hope you like what I did with your instructions. I thank you for it. It was a very good learning experience to play with color and using it in a way that I generally don't work.
Mm.
So
You continue, you mentioned that you're 81 and you continue to keep exploring and learning and teaching yourself new structures
absolutely.
and inventing new approaches, new ways to bead, to do beadwork, and also to unite structures.
I mean, like I say, I am not one of those who say, oh, you're 81, you just got to sit back and give it up. When I turned 50, my mother said to me, now remember, you cannot do what you used to. Meanwhile, for my birthday at 50, I went away to a aerobic weekend with all the gym teachers in New York for 3 days, had the best time. And on Sunday was a huge contest. I won the damn contest at the age of 50.
Wow.
Came home, called my mother. I said, remember what you told me that said I couldn't? I said, well, I did better. And I'm better than I ever was. And I continued to work out until my 70s, until my gym closed in COVID. So, and I'm still looking to get back into working out again somehow. So,
And you will. So what comes up next for you? What projects are you working on next? Like this summer, we're in June right now. What comes up for you in the next few months?
I admire certain artists that we talked about who make structures that are very big. And we talked about a sculptural, I think it's basket weaving, Jane Sauer.
Okay.
Who makes
Yes.
very,
Yes.
very interesting. They look very romantic.
Organic.
Organic shapes that they turn and they twist around each other.
Very sinuous shapes.
That's the word. Thank you. Yes. I want to do that with beads.
Okay, and she's a basketry artist, am I correct there?
I think it's basketry as opposed
Textile.
to, I'm not 100% sure, but I keep seeing basketry. And I remember seeing her work and I was just very much taken with the sinuous shapes and how they intertwined. And I thought, I want to do that with beading. So
Wow.
that's but right now I took my leftover beads from the necklace and I love this. And I turned them into little pins. And
Oh, I love it. I love it.
What I like is this thing that I did with the back of a bead, how to attach a pin back.
Okay, you buried the pin back underneath the beads?
I went, people who know this, stitch in the ditch.
Okay, I got it.
Build up a wall of about 4 rows.
Okay.
You take your pin, stick it in and roll over the top like a jelly roll.
Okay.
You bead into that bottom of the back and suddenly you've got like a little jelly roll, your pin's inside and it works. It's brilliant. It's clever. I can't remember the name of the artist. I would give her credit because I think I had so much trouble with pin backs of either gluing it, sewing it, and nothing ever looked good. To me, this is brilliant. So right now, I just want to make a couple of beads and start wearing things and trying different shapes that I like now that I know how to attach them. So that's just a little play thing. I've been I've been collecting things that caught my eye that I thought maybe try next. I'm basically currently outside of that necklace, structural shapes have been my go-to for the time being.
Okay.
And I like to push the envelope on that.
Right.
So I make samples of oddball things that catch my eyes. You know, here's a little triangle that I made, but I like the colors and I want to make it bigger and maybe make this into a bracelet.
Oh, definitely,
I
definitely. I
have to
love
make that
it.
into a bracelet. I mean, I
Oh,
love
yeah.
these fun shapes, different colors, plastic beads. I mean, okay, that works. I'm looking around my desk to see. I have samples of beads. Now, the other thing I want to say that I'm adding into my beads, because plastic beads are flat, and I do miss some of the shine. I started to play, as an example, nothing more, of adding in silver line gold beads to give it a little more shine.
Oh, I love it. Very pretty.
I think I'm
Very
going to
nice.
turn that into a structure of using those colors, the gold beads, and I think that will work. And I like that idea. Next time I can show structures that I did incorporate, and I like that it kind of pops off the plastic very nicely. So
Wow, fabulous. So you keep on innovating, and you probably always will.
I never stop having ideas.
I agree. I agree. So thank you very much for this interview. Now tell me, where can people find you? You have an Instagram page?
I do. I'm on Instagram, and my name on Instagram is Beady Girl, and that's B as in boy, EAD as in David, Y dash girl, GURL, and then underscore Duchess underscore of underscore Dover. I gave myself a title.
Excellent. I love it because you said Meghan Markle had a title and you wanted a title too.
Meghan became the Duchess of Sussex. I go to my favorite store in New York called Dover Street Market. So I gave myself the title Duchess of Dover, and it clicked. So a lot of people that know me and write to me on Instagram, they'll call me Duchess.
Oh, I
So
love it.
yeah,
I love
Duchess,
it.
how you doing, and so forth. But I have to say, for anybody out there who's not on Instagram, I love my Instagram.
Yeah.
Not just because I'm on it, but the amount of people I've met is
Mhm.
unbelievable. What a community. And I have learned so much. There's so much to learn out there.
Mhm.
I see things that I never would have noticed if I wasn't on Instagram. And Instagram kind of knows what you like. And I get all this artwork, and I'm connected out to other artists all throughout the world. And we're always in touch with one another, sending each other things. Did you see this? Did you see that? My brain sometimes explodes from all of the knowledge.
Yeah, so it's not just one stream of ideas, it's multiple streams of ideas that keep
Oh,
flowing into you and flowing out of you.
yes, exactly. It's amazing what that I do. I get like late at night. It's hard for me to shut it off because it's an addiction, and I know that, but it's a good addiction.
It's a very good addiction. Okay, and people, you also have a website. People can find you on your website too. What's your website?
It's my name, SuzanneGolden.com.
I love it. I love it. You know, we're going to meet again. We're going to produce our second interview that, as I said, will feature your amazing bracelets and also the sculptural pieces that you've been making with beads. And we're going to show some of the outfits that you have posted of your daily photo practice on
Okay.
your Instagram pages. So our plate is very full. It's just so rich and wonderful working with you. It's been a breeze and a dream to work with you. And thank you for doing this interview with me. And we'll catch up in the next interview.
Absolutely. And I thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity to share what I do and wear what I do. So again, I look forward to this, and thank you for giving me a legacy that I will have forever.
My absolute pleasure, and you completely deserve it, Suzanne.